In this video, it's gonna be the battle of the cheap kitchen trash bags versus the more expensive ones. I have them all lined up right here, ready to go, coming up. Welcome back to the channel, and yes, you heard correctly. We are actually going to speak about kitchen trash bags. And while this topic can be quite boring, someone has to be the one to speak about it, and it might as well be me. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's done this, but a lot of people have probably gone to the grocery store and stood in front of those garbage bags wondering which one to buy. Should I spend the extra dollar or whatever to get the more expensive trash bags, or should I just grab the cheaper ones and call it a day? And yes, that's one of the advantages of these cheap bags, is that they cost less. That's important to a lot of people because some people are on a strict budget, or they just in general want to maximize their dollar when they go to the grocery store, and they just choose to buy these cheap bags. Another thing is that these cheap bags, they contain more quantity of individual garbage bags than the more expensive ones. That's important for a lot of people, especially if you know that you're going to be going through these bags a lot more frequently. You know you're gonna save a lot more money with these cheap bags because you're gonna get a lot more of them for your money. Unfortunately, the reason that some of these cheap bags are costing a lot less is because they're actually utilizing cheaper materials. And this is basically the case with the majority of these cheaper bags. For the most part, you're gonna find that they are more likely to tear, they're more likely to leak, and they're more likely to just fail on you when you need them to work the most. And this can be quite graphic, an example that I'm gonna give, but you know what? Someone has to say it. But if you are the kind of person that uses these garbage bags to discard different types of foods that have meat that could have liquid, and the bags get excessively moist and have a lot of juices flowing through them, if you will, then you're gonna have a problem, because these bags are really not designed to take on liquid, and they do and will leak on you. So that's not good when you're transporting these garbage bags out of your home and it's leaving a trail of garbage juice all over your kitchen floor, maybe your carpets, or whatever it is that you have, all through your hallway. It's just not a good look, guys. It's very frustrating. Worse yet, these garbage bags are subject to tearing and just full on breaking on you if you overstuff them. That's important because a lot of people like to throw away stuff, and especially if you have a family, you have a lot of waste that you accumulate sometimes in a short period of time. And this can be a problem because the cheaper bags are just not able to handle the load, and they are more likely to literally just burst, tear, and the garbage will just spill out all over the place. And that is very frustrating. And I've had that happen to me a few times, and I can tell you that's gonna make you wanna spring for the more expensive garbage bags, because they're not gonna have that issue. More expensive garbage bags tend to be made stronger with thicker materials. Sometimes they have multiple layers of liners that make the garbage bags a little bit more sturdy, able to withstand liquids, less likely to leak. None of them are waterproof, but they're less likely to burst on you, fail on you, and tear. And also, tearing is important too, guys, because even if you just throw away paper products, with these cheaper bags, you have to be careful that there aren't any sharp edges that could gash, tear, or poke through the materials of the bags. Because they're so cheaply made, it doesn't take a lot to puncture those cheap bags. You're not gonna have to worry about that as much with the more expensive ones. Another thing that you wanna consider with these garbage bags is how sensitive you are to different odors. And again, without getting too graphic, some of the cheaper bags don't do as well with containing fragrances that you don't want escaping the bags. Let's face it, that rotting garbage smell, it's not good, it doesn't smell good, and when it starts to escape the bag and permeate your kitchen and your house, that's not good, guys. If you use the more expensive garbage bags, there's less of a chance that that odor is going to escape. Usually the more expensive garbage bags are a little better at trapping and containing, and also they contain some type of a scent to really deal with the odors, the bad smells of garbage, better than the cheaper bags. So keep that in mind when you're weighing the pros and cons of which one to get. And another thing that a lot of people don't consider when buying garbage bags is the quality and durability of that string when you tie up the garbage. Unfortunately, the cheaper garbage bags have an issue with the string being weak and very low quality and are subject to tearing very easily. For example, I have done this several times where I go to tie up the bags and the actual string literally snaps in my hand and I am not applying a lot of power to it. It's happened to me on multiple occasions. You have to be very gentle when you tie it, and that can be, it's more of an annoyance than anything else. I'm not gonna say it happens all the time, but it happens enough where it's enough to make you want to get the more expensive garbage bags, because you never know when it's going to happen, and you want to make sure that you tie those bags up nice and tight. And the cheaper ones have a little bit of an issue and you just have to be more cautious. The more expensive garbage bags don't have that issue as much. I've literally, tied them up and actually lifted them up with the string. That's important too, guys, because you may transport these bags primarily lifting them up by that string, and you can do that in many cases with the expensive garbage bags, but try doing that with the cheap bags and you run a higher risk of that bag and that string breaking, snapping, and the bag will just fall to the ground and it could break on you. And as far as my preference, I typically use the more expensive bags about 80% of the time, but obviously that means that I sometimes use the cheaper ones, and the way that I use them is in a very specific way. I'm very cautious. I know their limitations, and the way I use it is that I will utilize them when I want to throw away garbage more frequently, because it's a type of garbage that is either gonna be smelling up the kitchen, like chicken bones or meat or any type of unconsumed food. That tends to be a problem with odors, especially when it gets warmer. And I don't care how good of a garbage bag you think you have. If you think you have odor protection, you don't, because when you open up that lid, the odors will escape. So in those cases, I will throw away the garbage a lot more frequently, because I don't want the garbage to linger in my wastebasket. And having the cheap bags is just a lot more economic in that situation, because I just get rid of them quick. They don't tend to break on me too often, only because I don't overstuff them. So I know their limitations, and if I'm extra cautious, which I usually am, the way I'll be cautious is I will put the garbage into a separate shopping bag that I get at the grocery store, especially if it's like a piece of meat or some fruit, anything that could emit liquid or that I just want to be extra careful with. Put it in its own shopping bag, tie that up, and then place that in the waste paper bag. And then you basically have multiple layers of garbage protection, but are still utilizing the cheap garbage bag. And then just be aware when you tie it up, don't use too much power, throw it out more frequently, don't let it get overstuffed. And that's a good way that you can utilize cheap bags kind of in combination with the more expensive bags, and still be economic and have the bags that not break on you because you know how to use them.
For your convenience, I'm also including the product links to both types of trash bags that I discussed in this video, including the basic generic cheap trash bag type, which is gonna be just one from Amazon. I'm gonna clearly label it in the description down below the video. Also, I'm including a recommendation for one of the more expensive trash bags from Hefty. If you purchase, I'll get a small commission at no extra cost to you.
So anyway, guys, with that said, hope you got something out of this video. Stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next one.